And here we are for the third time in a row. We are, we are here together for the yearly 2024 Shmup Shmup Live. This time is a live video, so it's a roundabout. So how are you guys? Everything okay? I'd like to. We don't have to introduce anyone here. We all got everything. I guess everyone. I guess know Mark, Shmup Junkie, Paul, and myself. If you don't, feel yourself introduced. Nice to meet you too. And that's it. So this time around, we're going to do something slightly different. I won't stop the video to do like what's your pick, and whatever. We just go straight to the recommendations and talk about a little bit about how was your 2024, and that's it. It's going to be like a very chilled out chat. And at this time live, we're going to see. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop here a line here on the live chat, and we'll be glad to answer. We'll be happy to answer, and that's it. So, I guess everyone wants to hear about Shmup Junkie and the documentary, right?
Do they?
Yes, indeed.
I don't know. That's news to me. I guess that's the only thing I'm really qualified to talk about at the moment, since that's all I've been doing for the last several months, I guess. I can only say so much about it. I just know that I've been so busy with it that obviously I stopped making videos a while back. The channel's been kind of dead. I feel bad about it, but I really had to focus all of my time and make sure this project gets taken care of properly. It's an important commitment, so I had to prioritize it. What I can say is that it's coming along extremely well. I should be hopefully done with my editing in the first quarter of 2025. It absolutely is the goal and should be released next year in 2025, especially that now that I'm kind of at the tail end of the editing process of what I need to do. It's coming along great. I think people will definitely be excited about it once they see it. If anyone has specific questions about it, once we get into a conversation, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But just know that it's coming along. It's made a lot of progress. There's a lot of great interviews. And the main thing that I'm excited about is people are going to learn a lot about Toaplan that they didn't already know. They're going to see how much of the information online is not quite correct or completely wrong in some cases. And more importantly, how much is just missing. So this isn't a comprehensive video of every one of their games and mechanics and things like that. It's not an encyclopedia. It's really like a deep dive into different developers that work for them, developers that people never even heard of before, and other big industry names talking about how they were influenced by Toaplan games. So it's just going to be a lot of interesting information, I think. So I'm really enjoying putting it together, and I'm looking forward to the final product. And then after that, who knows? Then if I have more free time, maybe I'll jump right back into it if that's what the right thing to do is. But as far as I can tell, Mark's been doing a perfectly great job taking over. And
It's lonely. It's lonely, Junkie.
I
need someone to bounce off of. It's lonely. Like there's times where I'm like, if no one makes a video about SDOJ this month, or if I don't make a video about SDOJ this month, no one is going to make that video. I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
That's true.
I need to be able to sub. Yeah, I definitely want Junkie around as well to sub him in and be like, all right, Junkie, you do that one.
We'll
Hey,
see.
Junkie, one question to you.
Go.
Did you manage to talk to Ikeda for the documentary?
Ikeda Tsuneki?
Yes.
Oh, of course, absolutely. I mean, there was already a special that was released. If you haven't seen it, everyone who was on the Kickstarter, that's been out for a while. There's a 20-30 minute long special that's just him discussing all kinds of things. It was a really great video too. I don't know if Felipe, you've already seen it or not. If you've backed the Kickstarter, you probably have already seen it. But if you haven't, it's going to be released. My understanding is it'll be released on the final discs too, along with all the other materials for everyone
For
to
those
enjoy.
on the audience who doesn't know who Ikeda Tsuneki is, basically he's the father of Donpachi, Dodonpachi, all the great cave games, Mushihime-sama Futari, everything that you like playing on cave. He's the one doing that, and he worked on Trucks and other great games at Toaplan. So that's it. So that's
Well,
why
yeah.
it's
I mean,
great to know that he's there.
Tatsujin is his favorite Toaplan game, and it's the game that influenced him the most. He spends a lot of time in the special talking about how, and you can really see it after he talks about it. Tatsujin was unique because it was the very first shooting game that I'm aware of, that he's aware of, where it was really a game where it was a battle of firepower. Most shmups before then, your ship was on the weak side, or the enemies were on the weak side. And Tatsujin was the first game, especially with the mini bosses, not just the bosses themselves, where your firepower is enormous. The boss's firepower is enormous. They're extremely tanky. And it's just kind of this influence of firepower and powerful player character versus powerful enemies. And then you see that in games like Batsugan and everywhere else. He was very, very heavily influenced. And you see a lot of that in later cave games, where it's not like older shmups, where it's this battle of power between your ship and the enemy ships at all times. And it's perfectly mirrored in Tatsujin, and he spends a lot of time talking about it and how that influenced him. But really, the documentary has, like I said, Manabu Namiki. It has Gosatu. It has Komazawa-san from Seibu Kaihatsu that worked on the Raiden games. All these people talking about how important Toaplan was and how it influenced them and their games that came afterwards. So, it's really interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, the thing I'm most excited about for the documentary is the bit of information that's really hard to find when I'm researching shmups is the staff stuff. Like who worked on what, when, who was where, because after Toaplan ended, it was like the great mother that gave birth to all these different smaller, or subsequent studios, like of course Cave, but we also got Rising in the mix there. And it'd be really awesome to track where these influences go, where these developers went. And so that's the thing I'm most excited about, is to learn more about the staff of Toaplan and then how they sort of dispersed afterward.
Yeah, and a lot of the names are just people you won't even heard of. Like they may have only worked at Toaplan and never worked anywhere again. But they never got credit. They're not credited anywhere for these games, and now they will be. And
exactly.
You can even see, and you'll see all that in the credits. Where it has every game, and it has who programmed it, who did the music, who did this, who did that. And then obviously the people that worked at Toaplan that eventually went on to co-found Cave. Not just Ikeda-san. So there's that too. But yeah, you'll absolutely see all of that. So if you're looking for names, even in the special that we've already completed that Ikeda-san did, whenever we show a game, then we want to show like everyone who worked on it. So in the final credits at the end, when it rolls, you can literally just use the credits, to create your own wiki and say like, okay, so on this game, so these are the people that worked on it. And the only names that'll be missing might be people who are like very, very like in and out, small time temp people that maybe contribute a little here and there. That weren't really,
the coffee.
Weren't like a big market. But anyone of any significance, like I said, they'll all be in there. So,
were there any well, I guess I don't know if you can say spoilers or anything, but were there any names of developers who you don't always associate with, shmups, but you find out, whoa, this guy went on to work at like Capcom or some other like some other influential studio, but it had a surprising connection back to Toaplan? Were there any people like that?
Not so much, because pretty much everyone that was at Toaplan, unless they were artists, there are artists that obviously went on to work like at other companies, but as far as programming, Toaplan really were kind of shooting specialists. They made a few other games. They made Snow Bros and Horror Story and some of these other ones, but they were known for shooting, and all of their top developers, like all their biggest games, were all shooting games. So I don't think there was anyone that I can think of off the top of my head that they went on and like made completely different games, of a different genre, like somewhere else. The only thing is you'll have artists, that obviously went on to work at other companies and do a lot.
And even Snow Bros, you're actually shooting on your enemies as well, so it's just not a vertical shooting game in the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, even their non-shooting games have a lot of like shmup aspects to them if you look at them, because a lot of them are auto-scrolling. So like Horror Story is auto-scrolling, Get Star is auto-scrolling. And if you look at the way the enemies come on screen, everything is very choreographed. The placement is very, very detailed and specific. It just moves a certain way. Like there's just a certain way they went about enemy placement and the way their games work. So you can just see it in the DNA that they're all shooting specialists. And that's how they were seen. I mean, they were like some of the interviewees were talking about that, like from other companies. Like at the time, that's what they saw them. They saw Toaplan as shooting specialists. Like if it was a game from them, it was going to be shooting for the most part. And the games that weren't shooting games were kind of ignored, to the most part. Like they just weren't popular. People were like, oh, they made this game. Well, who cares? It's like if Cave went and released, a platformer. Like, yeah, it might have some curiosity, but it kind of gets ignored.
Like Instant Brain.
we have a good question.
The massive success that was Instant Brain.
We have a good question here from Adnei. Adnei is a Brazilian player. He has a channel as well, and he's specializing in carbon games. And he has said, "I'm very excited for the Toaplan doc. I think that was an opportunity to other shmups developer docs, compile doc maybe. I don't think Shmup Junkie is gonna participate in another production this big anytime soon. But anyway."
Well, not pro bono, not again.
Yeah.
But it's an actual.
Do it, Cave.
Interestingly enough, now once this started happening and people in the industry are seeing that it's happening, because we're interviewing them or Joe is interviewing them, he started getting inquiries from other companies like, hey, if this comes out and it does well and it turns out good, we'll be interested in something. Maybe Seibu Kaihatsu would like a documentary on there, and it's something that Joe will have experience behind his belt at that point. So he's got the connections, and if it does well and he wants to pursue it and then do more interviews because he's obviously can speak Japanese and he has the experience, the opening will be there, I guess, whether it's me or somebody else editing. I think there are other developers that are showing interest, now that they see, hey, if Toaplan did this, and maybe we can do this too.
I have a pitch. SNK would be perfect for this. The next one, because the cross-genre arcade. Plus, I understand they have a pretty fun, interesting backstory with I think it was the Metal Slug artist who was describing like the first boss of SNK, or his boss during the Metal Slug era, is like kind of a Yakuza type of guy, and like so. It would be it would be fascinating. I think you'd get a ton of stories around SNK. As
long as they allow it, as long as the developers are interested, because the big problem is a lot of developers aren't around. You can't round them up at all. Like Toaplan was lucky because Tatsujin Corp is still there, and Masahiro Yuge is still there, and Uemura-san is still there. So they were able to kind of get together and help hunt down some of the older staff and get people who didn't want to participate and get a lot of people involved. So if you can get enough of the developers back to actually get on camera and they have interesting stories to tell, then you've got something you can make.
There are some very interesting stories to tell about, but I don't think that Nintendo would be very willing to talk about their past work with gambling companies and Yakuza, and of course having pin-up girls on their cards. So that's not exactly things they would like to do, but would be very interesting to at least have people know about that.
That would be like the unauthorized documentary, but it'd be really good.
Well, I think out of all the developers, I think Toaplan probably has the majority of Yakuza stories to tell. As far as that's concerned. I mean, not that we go overboard with it or anything like that, but it's going back to like Orca and their older days and just all that involvement in every way and everything else.
Imagine their stories about Sega.
Yeah. I always like to try to picture what these developer offices are like, because in my head I either imagine them as a bunch of like nerdy guys just hammering at the computer, sleeping under their desk, or sometimes I like to imagine that they're having like parties, they're having like hookers come over, and it's like this huge wild chaotic thing happening. But,
I've seen
I'd love to get more info.
More boring than that. So basically, it's the guys working on the desk with no one talking to each other, and to the other side of the studio, there are girls working to draw the graphics, and that's it. And I heard stories about Capcom, like the team worked with the sound in the game were working upstairs, and the other team was working with the coding downstairs, and they couldn't go downstairs because the building was closed. So they had to actually use a small rope to get the EPROMs downstairs so they could test that with the game downstairs.
That's high tech.
That kind of the weird stuff. So yeah, no
Yeah.
network back then.
Okay. Someone called Sora, the orange juice mascot, said, "I have a question. Always want to ask some Shmup Junkie. What happened to Tinfoil Timmy?"
Oh, he's still around. Actually, you know what? I still have his tinfoil hat sitting here to the left of me somewhere, just in case I ever need to use it again.
Oh, yeah. We hope you get to use it again at some point in the future.
Yeah, if I ever make videos again, I certainly will. Like I said, I really enjoyed making them, so it's just one of those things where I had to buckle down and take care of priorities. And once that's behind me and done, then I just kind of start over and see where everybody's at and see what makes sense. But yeah,
but the world of
it's
Shmups
still there.
Junkie is like, it's never super active, but nothing ever dies either. It's like this sort of like zombie realm where you could literally do your channel, take 4 years off, and come
Probably.
back, and people would be like, "Oh, there's Junkie." It's like the hyperbolic time chamber sort of thing where time moves slower in Shmupland than the rest of the gaming world.
The Shmuposphere is a weird place.
I like to think that a lot of the videos I made are kind of like more green anyway. They're more retro, you know, they're not necessarily specific reviews. So, you know, people can kind of go back to them whenever and watch them whenever. They're not really timely or time specific. Not
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, and I guess we can get back to the documentary at any point in this live, but I'd like to give it a chance also to hear from you guys. What do you think? I'd like to know what are your.
I have one more question about the documentary for Shmup Junkie.
Okay, go for
This
it.
is something I've been thinking about. With older gaming companies, you know, the Arcader and stuff, there seemed to be a lot more sort of competitive spirit among the developers. Whereas like these days, that's not really a thing. Did you sense something like, did they have that sort of thing when you're talking to the Toaplan guys? Were they saying, oh, you know, we're trying to really compete with the other devs? Or just was there that energy there, that sort of competitive design energy or not?
I don't think they were trying to compete with other developers, at least not early, because they were kind of pioneering in a lot of ways. They were definitely seeing other games, and they always wanted to do something different. So they would look at certain games as an example and say, we don't want to just make a copy. You know, we want to make something unique, or we want to make something of our own that stands out. And they were allowed to do that. They competed a lot between each other and amongst themselves on certain games, and they had really high standards for themselves. You know, they would be up late into the night, into hours. They go drinking, they come back to work, and they would nitpick every little thing about the game. You know, enemy placement down to the pixel. And you can kind of tell, like with games like Twin Cobra and Tatsuji and a lot of the earlier games, like how perfected the games are in terms of like just the flow and the enemy placement and everything else and the checkpoints. You know, there's nothing really haphazard about their games in that sense. You know, they're very strategic. You have to play them a certain way. They're very planned out. So they're a very autonomous company. Their president was kind of absentee, where he just kind of, you know, they started on their own because they came over from Orca, and he just went off and did his own thing. You know, their president came to them and said, "Hey, I want you to make a Mahjong game," and that's about as involved as he ever got. You know, so
Right.
all of their concepts, all the games, it's the developers. It's kind of like, imagine having a small team of like 4 or 5 people, and you just get to do whatever the hell you want. And that's kind of what Toaplan was. You know, they would just say, "Hey, this sounds like a cool idea for a game. Let's do it." And there was really nobody to say no for the most part, as long as they all kind of agreed. They wouldn't step on each other's toes. They wouldn't say, "No, you shouldn't do this," or "No, you shouldn't do that."
So basically the exact opposite of how games are developed now.
Yeah, absolutely. and that's why you saw so much innovation come out of it. You know, like,
Yeah.
yes, there wasn't a business person sitting there going, "Yes, you shouldn't do this. No, you shouldn't do that." Maybe that's why they eventually went bankrupt. You know, they weren't always making the best and smartest business decisions, but they were making the games that they wanted to make.
And not only that,
for a long
Mark, you
time.
mentioned about that is exactly the country that people are doing games right now. But really, Japan in the 80s and early 90s, They were like in a high economic boom, so they were making money like crazy. So they could also try out any new idea that they want. So they were not restricted by financial constraints. Now it's very different because they are like for over 20 years in a large recession. But before they were like throwing money out of the window. So that reflects on both anime, games, and everything else. So you see that they have like a lot more unrestricted development methods than they have right now, and that's a lot because of the economics that really helped them back then.
Yeah, I call it the gaming recession or depression. That's kind of what we're in now.
Yeah, you have the right term there.
Japan in the 80s were playing like in cheat mode. Like they were like they just did the infinite money cheat and that's it. Like they could do like everything they could.
Show me the money in Brood War.
No, like it's like. Do you remember the first Sim City where you can put like I can't remember the password now, but you enter the password and get like infinite money. You could do whatever you want. That's basically Japan in the 80s. That's what they were doing things.
I mean, a lot of the early games, they were the ones innovating. So it's like they didn't have too much to copy necessarily. So, you could look at like Seibu Kaihatsu later with Ride, and you can say, they looked at Twin Cobra and they said, okay, we don't want to copy them. We want to make a better game. And how are we going to do that? What are we going to improve upon? How are we going to improve the graphics and the visuals and, anything else that we want to do with the gameplay? They can kind of use it as a template and improve upon it. But when Twin Cobra came out, I mean, what was it really templating or improving upon besides maybe Tiger Heli or their older game or on Flying Shark? Those games were really unique. Flying Shark was unique in a lot of ways. It was prototypical, so... And that was because they got to do whatever they wanted. I mean, Tatsujin especially is so unusual and so unique of a shmup or a shooter for that period of time. I mean, there was nothing else like it, when it came out, as far as the way that game plays and and its approach to firepower.
Were there any? So there were no preceding studios like Konami or Capcom flowing into Toaplan at all. Toaplan just like wow. So all these guys
Toaplan came from Orca. So I mean, Toaplan was Orca. You had like Ota-san and Yuke-san and Omura-san who came from Orca when Orca went bankrupt. And then that just flowed into becoming Toaplan. They had a president who had the money and the finances and wanted to start. And they suggested to them, hey, let's start a gaming company. And he provided the money, but he wasn't really all that involved, besides saying make Mahjong games. Because Mahjong games make money, so like part of their team at some point was forced to make some straight Mahjong games, which we talk about a little bit in the documentary. It's funny, like one of the developers was like so embarrassed, like working on like the art that they had, like they were working like under an umbrella, and because they didn't want to see what they were doing, and like because that's obviously they didn't want to make a Mahjong game. It's just that's what they were forced to do. So, but yeah, I mean, they all came from Orca. There was not really a lot of filtering in. The industry was so young at the time. A lot of them didn't even know what they were coming in to do. They were interviewing for, like a composer for video games or like graphic, this or that. And they didn't even really know what to expect, coming in because it was such early times. They had never worked. A lot of them had never worked at a game company before coming in. And a lot of them wouldn't even admit it because it was so looked down upon at the time in Japan. That if they thought you were just playing video games, so they would just say, "Oh, I'm working in computers," because people are like, "Oh, okay, well, that's a real job." If you tell them you're working,
that's what I do as a YouTuber. I get it. That's what I do as a YouTuber. When people ask me what I do, I lie. I am a writer every time. And I go to my apartment and I have to like fill out the thing. And they're like, "What's your profession?" I'm like, "Writer."
Wow, you definitely need to know how to write.
I write, and then I put them online with videos in there, so I get it.
Content creator is also being very...
Right. I know, right? YouTuber, when I say YouTuber, I always fear people think I like sit around and like vlog about my life or whatever.
No,
and
YouTuber sounds like a coach or something, but like content creator is vague enough to, avoid the next question.
Yeah.
I would be happy to say that. I'd be like,
me content creator, I will still ask, where do you create content?
Yeah, exactly.
That's too personal.
That's exactly their first thought too. It's like, oh, content creator. I see.
At least it's YouTube, not TikTok.
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
We never know.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what people would probably think.
But that's we're at the point that this is so vague. This is vague enough to people with like a little bit of common sense avoid asking the next question. So they okay, fair enough.
The sad
Cool.
thing is you make
The
more
next
money with OnlyFans for middle-aged guys than with YouTube right now.
We never know, man. We never know.
New
Don't-
channel
don't-
name, Only Shmups. That's what you're
Only
gonna call it.
Only shmups.
And that's it.
Every time I
That's
start
how you
doing-
should come back from Shmup Junkie. The second
Only
coming
Shmups.
is Only Shmups.
Now, every time I started, not nowadays, nowadays I don't do that anymore. But every time I was doing like a main ROM set or a ROM set for I don't know, whenever an Azure drive or something, I usually do like my on the root of the folder. They're like two folders, like shmups and others, because I know what I'm gonna pick and play, right? So first I put all the shmups in a folder and everything else on the other one.
So
They
did the
are-
Toaplan guys, did they say, so they weren't, because I'm always very skeptical about this. I will say when developers talk about their influences, were they playing Gradius or anything? Like
Oh, yeah,
when they're first
absolutely.
starting,
Oh yeah, no,
did
they
they mention
absolutely were.
Gradius or anything like that?
Yeah, they're pretty straightforward about it too. I mean, they got a lot of their ideas from other games and from movies and TV shows and all kinds of stuff. And they actually like talking about it. Like obviously, some of Slap Fight, was influenced. Had some Gradius influences in it. But I think they were always careful that they wanted to make their own game. So they might see something and be like, "Oh, this is really cool. I really like this idea. I like that idea." But we're going to take and do something else with it. Or they'll see a movie and it'll give them an idea, and they want to make a game based on that. Obviously, what was I? My train of thought is that they always wanted to do something unique or different, but they're definitely straightforward as far as like their influences are concerned. I don't think anybody's idea is 100% often completely unique. Some ideas are unique, like you guys like the idea for the blue thunder laser in Tatsujin. He said it just happened in a dream. He said he was dreaming about it, and then he like fell over and hit his head on something, and he just like had this idea. He's like, "Oh my god, this was awesome! I need to put this in the game somehow." So he went home and had the artist draw it up for him or something. But most of the time, just like Raiden, they're taking previous concepts and they're improving upon them to some degree. I think like Tiger Heli, the original bomb was pretty unique because aside from like maybe Defender, and that's not really a bomb, it's kind of like a smart bomb per se. I mean, that was one of the first games that actually had like a survival bomb where you had a stock of bombs and you pick them up and you drop them, and he even had the dynamic where if the bomb gets shot, it's almost like protection because you get shot in the bomb and it explodes by itself, and that's a pretty unique idea for its time. I don't know other games that did that. So there was a lot of firsts like Tiger Heli and the bomb, and Twin Cobra and the cycling power up. That it changes colors and cycles around the screen. I don't know of other shooters that did that before. So they were just being creative and coming up with cool and better ways to do something. In terms of how it affects the gameplay.
Okay, just a quick highlight here. KT Core said, "I have two things to say. Mark is the most unique and absolutely nuanced reviewer I've ever seen, and I miss you so much."
That's very nice. Yeah, the world misses the Shmup Junkie. We need to just bully him through this entire recording.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'm not a good reviewer. Like, that's the thing, Mark. You're a great reviewer. Like, you really get into a game and you'll go into it for 40, 45 minutes and you'll tear it apart and what you like and what you don't like. And so I like watching your reviews and your opinions.
But on the other hand, Junkie, you have a different way to present things because while Mark, I think that he's more into let's dissecate this thing and understand what makes it good or bad. You, on the other hand, is the kind of guy that goes to the, let's say, Wikipedia side of things. You go down.
You're really good at that.
So you say, okay, I recall watching your Cotton retrospective just before Cotton Reboot was released, that you presented all Cotton games, that you said, okay, what each one of them brought to the table. I still remember you making jokes about how Cotton would scream when she died in the PC Engine version. So that was kind of the thing that made your video stand out. So I think that you're not talking about the same level of content, but really it's the two different ends of the spectrum, and we need both of them. That's the point.
Yeah, no. It's they said I will admit that I'm more like I'm good at hyping stuff. I get excited about a game. I really love it, so I'm good at presenting it really well and waxing poetic about it and getting other people excited about it. I was doing that on purpose because I wanted to boost excitement for shmups and for the genre. I was doing that for a very specific reason, and I really enjoy doing that. But by the same token, that's why I didn't spend a lot of time, talking about every single game or reviewing games that maybe I dislike or I don't like, that I want to criticize. Not that I don't dislike certain games or I can't criticize them, but it's just not my bag. There's plenty of other people that do that really, really well. So it's like I'll do what I enjoy doing. That doesn't make me a very good reviewer. That just makes me a fun and entertaining. I can make fun and entertaining videos about things I like. Mark will take anything and good or bad, and just be a real honest critic about it. And, if it deserves to be torn apart, to tear it apart. So I said, I love watching.
Yeah. But we had a good dynamic going because it's like good cop, bad cop. So I come in as the heavy and I just bully people and I'm like ruthless. And then Junkie comes in and it's like, your dad is a little angry, but he still loves you. Junkie can be like the good cop.
It was the same dynamic with the whole lag debate too. I mean, we had completely in the very beginning, completely different perspectives about input lag and how you view it versus how I view it, and I would be just as intent about measuring it, like I did in a lot of my videos and presenting it to people. I just saw a little bit differently, and some people saw it your way and some people saw it my way. And I was happy to present it. It's the same dynamic between the two of us. And like I said, if I can ever come back and I've got the time, like I said, I really enjoyed making the videos. I'll come back and do it. But to be honest, I've loved watching your channel blow up, and I hope that your channel always remains bigger than mine at this point. It should stay that way.
It's not there yet. Your channel cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped, Junkie.
What do you mean? Haven't you already surpassed it? I thought you did.
No, I have not. It keeps growing. I'm like, any day now. And then yours just keeps growing. I'm like, damn it, Junkie. You're beating me, even in retirement.
You'll blow it away. You'll blow it away.
Actually, Mark, thank you very much for the Dodonpachi Sadayojo video. It was really fun. And I definitely, you covered many points that I was, in doubt before buying it. It's I really like that game. It's one of my favorite Dodonpachis. I know most people don't like it
Well, I wonder if that goes back to the port. I really do think that, because before Final Burn Neo got the ROM a few years ago, the only way to play SDOJ was ice skate SDOJ with the lag. And that game is so intense that the lag just makes it seem completely brutal and insane. So I always feel like if we got a really good port of that game, a lot of the public opinion on it would start to shift. Because what happens is every time collectors talk to me about getting SDOJ, the PCB, it's a really beloved PCB. All of them say, "Oh man, it's a totally different experience once you play it on the PCB because of the the performance and everything." But having them buy a PCB is way too much money and we need a good port of it. So
nowadays there is a pirate PCB available. So you can buy a one from AliExpress. It's still expensive, about $1,500. So that's not exactly cheap, but let's say less than 8,000. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping we get it on the Mister at some point. What happened to the Mister guys? But the Mister, and then we get a real proper port. I think that would really help the game a lot. We do have the ROM though, so that's nice. But
yeah.
Well, we can, of course, like I said, we can get back and forth on the topics here. There's not a very rigid structure, but I'd like to know from you guys, the reason of the thumbnail. What I put this on the thumbnail is what are your picks for the 2024? And there's absolutely no rules about that. If you have 1, if you have 2, 3, 10, it's up to you. And of course, if you have 0, it's 0. I don't need to
negative
say
1.
I don't know. We never know. And of course, I already you already know my opinion, or I did a video about that, so I don't think it's worth like getting back to it. But I'd like to hear from you guys if you have any picks. If you agree with my picks, if you disagree with whatever. So that's it. Who wants to start?
I'll start because there was a pick that is missing on everyone's radar, including mine, including yours. It's like the sleeper shmup sweeping the nation, which is Angel at Dusk. So Angel at Dusk, like stealth released in January of this year. I had to double check that it came out this year. I was like, when did this game come out? And I didn't cover it because, like I said, it just kind of snuck right under the radar. But while the shmup world has not been watching, Angel at Dusk has been on a rampage. It's been growing in popularity. It's like really taking on its own identity. And so in preparation, I was like, oh crap, I got to go back and review this thing. So I've been playing it the past few days. I'm going to review it in January on its 1 year anniversary. Why not? And this thing is really good. Angel at Dusk is basically a lot of shmups over the recent years have been trying to figure out how do you make sort of a progression system in a shmup that would work well. I think Angel at Dusk is the best example I've seen so far. It's really an interesting, really cool game, and it's kind of surprisingly really popular. It just hasn't hit the West side yet. It's been growing a lot in, I guess, Japan and China or some of these regions, but that one was definitely a sleeper pick of the year that, looking back on it now, it's really in the graphics. And this thing's a beast.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, look at how many reviews it has, though. It's like, for a shmup, it's like really popular.
Yeah.
And what's funny, that's one of the few shmups I did play this year because I've been waiting for it for years because I knew it was coming because I liked his other games, like previous games that he's made. So I never knew when it was going to come out. When it did, I just went and played it. And yeah, I didn't get to deep dive into it like Mark has, but just even the
I haven't either. I've just been playing it this week. Yeah.
But it's
you know what's funny? Because that's the same guy that did Hellsinker and Grey's Counter.
No, I don't think so. It's the guy who did Steel Vampire.
Yeah.
The guy who did Steel Vampire.
But I don't know. I see for more from Henteku Dojin, and there is also Hellsinker and Grey's. Maybe it's the same circle.
I think that's the publisher.
That's the
Okay, that's the circle.
Yeah.
He also did a lot of the like really. I'm trying to remember their names. A couple. I even featured them once, and I made like a weird shmups video, and it's like these bloody games.
And there's one of them that's like top secret or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's Akira Goya, and like he did a lot of like very explicit, very bloody games. Like,
and I just figured out why I skipped this game. When I saw the snapshot, the screenshot, I didn't get it exactly. What is this about? Like, it was kind of I saw a bloody mess with like tits and tentacles. I thought it was like more like a hentai game or something, and I didn't, we didn't click to what I didn't pay attention to it properly. But now that you mentioned, I definitely.
It's funny, if you go into the options menu, it has esports mode, which censors. I think that's so funny that they call it esports mode. I love that.
I mean, he's been making shmups forever. I mean, he goes way back to it wasn't on the Amiga, it was on the Sharp 68000. He even made like a test shmup for that system that he never released. Like, he's been doing it for a long time, so he's got the experience.
Yeah, I talked to him once, and I asked him if he could, of course, sell me the game. I said, I would like to buy this game from you if you like. He said, no.
He doesn't want it out. He doesn't want to give it to anyone. It's like an old game that he's just not proud of, and he's like, nah, that was just like an experiment that I worked on while I was in school, and it's not getting out there.
So, oh my God, I had a question for. Oh yeah, Junkie, what were your thoughts when you played it? Because I remember I was really interested in Steel Vampire. I don't know if you ever played that,
I did.
I loved Steel Vampire's like vibe and the graphics, but then I played it and I was like, this is a little funky. But I feel like Angel
had ship too big.
Yeah.
Way too big.
It's gigantic.
Yeah, what you're saying is correct, Mark. Like, Steel Vampire was actually an evolution of some of his older games as well. And, it was just a newer version of it. And Angel at Dusk, kind of scales it back a little bit. Like Steel Vampire is like 2 in your face. Like you just have to be on top of everything all the time. And you're huge. And this kind of scales it back a little bit to where you're still large and you get larger. And there's this aspect of the controlled size that you grow to versus, everything else. Not in a slap fight way, but in a Steel Vampire.
No, because your hitbox remains the same size.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not as like aggressive in your face. It feels like a mix between Steel Vampire and more of like a traditional bullet hell in a way.
Yeah,
I quite like Steel Vampire. I just miss like a more comprehensible way to explain what you're buying with the the resources. You're like, it's kind of a mess. You end up buying things like, what? This doesn't feel like it's changing anything, or it's quite confusing.
I feel like Angel at Dusk took a lot of the ideas from Steel Vampire and like improved them. It's like, how do we make these work better? And I feel like Angel at Dusk pulled it off. So I was really impressed with it. So that one, it snuck by everyone. So we're all guilty of this one sneaking by us. But that one's definitely a big pick for me for the year, even though I'm reviewing it in January.
Yeah, I'm going to do a review after you do yours. Not just to contradict what you say, but I want to do review. And but because like I was curious about it, and it seems like they definitely got some crazy ideas there. Like they implemented some crazy ideas in Steel Vampire in Angel at Dusk.
The name
I feel like Angel at Dusk will really grab like general action game fans who aren't into shmups. I feel like it's one of the best games. It's doing a lot of things. I'm like, oh, these types of players will really like this. So I was really impressed with a lot of these. Like you know how like a lot of shmups coming out now are trying to capture that audience, like the guys who play Enter the Gungeon and stuff like that. I feel like Angel at Dusk is the best sort of answer to that question because it's doing a lot of things with the way it scrolls the screen but the aspect ratio works a lot better. Everything is giant, by the way. I've talked about that for years. Like, if you want the aspect ratio to be wider, make things bigger. And Angel at Dusk, like, everything's enormous. It's awesome. And it's really visceral. And it just does a lot of great stuff. So I was really impressed with that one.
Check out his older games on Steam called Galshell 2. That's the one you're thinking about. That's the name you're thinking of. I just looked it up. I forgot the name. Where just everything is huge and bloody and gory and but it's a good game. Like it's not quite as in your face as Steel Vampire, but it's like that where you're very large. So it's not as evolved as Angel at Dusk, but it definitely has its charm. And graphically, it's just absolutely nuts. Like it's the kind of game you really can't release to the masses because it's kind of like it's not rated X, but it's like too bloody and too pornographic. But yet it's not focused on it. The art is crazy.
Yeah, it's like Midnight Cowboy or something.
Yeah, when I did the video, I had to like blank out a bunch of stuff. I had those little black squares everywhere.
Imagine reviewing this. Like you have to like set the video settings to PEGI 17 or something. Like you cannot just do a regular review. Like
but Angel at Dusk has esports mode, so you can just turn on esports mode.
Oh my, come on! You're going to do an esports mode for a review? That's unfair.
Well,
you have to show the real thing.
You subscribe to the Patreon. You want the uncensored version. Only shmups, right there.
Yeah,
only shmups. The collab channel.
Yeah.
Someone's going to steal that domain before this recording is over. I register right now. I'm going to do that. I have 20, 30 domains registered that I never use. But anyway. Okay, that was Mark's pick. What about yours, Paulo and Junkie?
You talk about
Junkie. Junkie, we know you've been busy, but if you have any pick, just say it. That's fine.
Sure, I'll let you go first, and I've got one or two. I've played some this year, just not. I haven't gotten a chance to play a lot of the ones I wanted to.
Okay.
So
what's the next?
Then. Okay. So for me, there are two shmups that surprised me this year. One of them because I didn't expect to be any great at all. It was Trouble Witches. So the PS4 and Nintendo Switch version is very fun to play. So it's a game that has all ranges of difficulty levels, from the lowest let's say from the very beginner shmup player to the most advanced ones. Maybe Mark will say, yeah, it's still not that difficult, but let's say it tries to make a hard game. So that let's say
let's
you
see.
have something for everyone else, and of course the one that came out of nowhere, but let's say I enjoyed a lot playing this year was Devil Blade Reboot. So I think that this
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the game that everyone played and talked about this year, because really that was the kick-ass shmup. That was really, because it gets everything: great action, great level design, the enemy hordes, they are perfectly moving
Yes.
around the screen, both partners are great. There's a cinematic feeling that doesn't feel like it's intrusive in the game, but it's enough to give like a powerful presentation. So that's the, let's say, that was the shmup I was waiting for years to play, because it just perfect in that sense. And
That's a great
again,
pick.
yeah.
You know, my favorite thing about Devil Blade Reboot was, even though the Inferno mode itself isn't like insanely difficult, I actually love the structure of it, where I think a lot of shmups should start putting Inferno modes in their games. This idea of like, it's like a scoring survival mode where if you don't score enough, you just die.
Yeah,
I think that's a really cool idea. So I'd love to see more shmups do that, the Inferno mode.
that's true, because that would take, let's say, Dio Joe to the next level, because you have to keep scoring. But let's say it's not only because you have to score to get, let's say, a good score, but to survive. Because if you don't
blow
score,
up.
let's say, it's game over.
Yeah, that would be amazing, especially because Double Blade Reboot uses a chaining system, kind of like the Dononpachi games. So if there wasn't a range in like a Dononpachi port with an Inferno mode style scoring requirement, that would be really cool. Like if you drop the chain, you die. That would be awesome.
Yeah. But I say that,
So,
that
yeah,
for me
that's
is
a great one.
the best shmup for the year. If we're not talking about shmups, then I would say that my game of the year would be Metaphor or Fantasio. So that's really, let's say, the follow up to Persona games, but really it's on a more fantasy setting. That's a very good game to play. And of course, there's something that's completely different: Crime City. Those,
Oh,
let's
I've
say,
not heard of that one. Crime
That's
City?
good. That's a good one. It's a
yeah,
platformer.
Crime City. It's like it plays like Mega Man,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it's, let's say, think about Escape from New York, but on a Mega Man setting. That's basically the
Interesting.
thing. It's really great.
Yeah, I've not heard of this one.
It's not really difficult. You can, let's say, you can beat it in a couple of hours, but it's a game that, say, it pays homage to Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, Mega Man, and all, let's say, 8-bit games from the past. And it's very well presented. If you enjoy to watch, let's say, 80s action movies, let's say, the game is, let's say, full of the 80s movies vibes. So that's really great to watch to play as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's like a sort of a, so it's like a Contra Mega Man style running gun. That looks cool.
Yeah. Let's say you play with a boomerang, so you're not shooting far away to the screen, but so you have to get somewhat close to the enemies. But man, it's fun.
That looks cool.
I actually
that
got
looks awesome.
this one on the Philips Live from during the last marathon. Nobody was asking one question, so I just answered it and they win.
Yeah.
So it was completely random, and I started playing. Hey, this is good.
According to the internet, Prison City is inspired by Shatterhand on the NES.
By Shatterhand,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Shatterhand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was playing the demo way back before the game was out, that's the first game I thought of when I was like doing a preview for it. It's very much like that game. Because I remember playing like Shatterhand, Vice City, and some of those other games at the time, and it definitely reminds me of those.
Okay, we have a question from Sora the Orange's mascot. Hey, Smoky Junkie, what's your favorite RPG?
RPG? Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'd like to know everyone's favorite RPG. Let's see.
Okay.
I just told mine. Come on, that's not fun.
Well, with terms of RPGs, I'm kind of old school because the only RPG that I played this year that I really enjoyed, I played with my wife, was Baldur's Gate 3. We played through that together. But we've played all the Baldur's Gates together, so it's just something I do. And that's not so much. It's an RPG, but it's more like strategy, and it's the battle. It's more like a real time strategy RPG.
Yeah, I think we have to exclude real time, because then I would just say like Brood War or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be turn
for
based.
me, RPGs are old school. Like I go back to like the old Ease games, and I played the original Final Fantasy on NES. I still have it. Like, so my favorite RPGs are like those old RPGs, whether it was the Ease games on the TurboGrafx or the first few Final Fantasy games that I played on the 8 and 16-bit systems. Once the later systems came out, I had a lot less free time, so I didn't really get into RPGs anymore. Like going forward, Final Fantasy 7 and 8 were probably the last like real long big RPGs I played. But my favorites are still the old ones, the originals.
6 is a great one.
Yeah, 6 is great. But I mean, I can still play the original, like just for nostalgia. I'll whip it out, and if I had the free time, I would just sit and play the original again on an NES, and I'd be perfectly happy.
I was thinking about something here. It's quite hard to classify a game as an RPG nowadays, isn't it? Because the RPG elements are everywhere. Like you have RPG elements on pretty much every single game that's released.
Yeah,
so
Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater has RPG elements. Does that count?
Yeah. Well, Steel Vampire has some RPG elements. Like you can customize.
Angel at Dusk as well.
Yeah, it's quite hard to say like this game is an RPG. Like back in the day, I think easier. Like you could level up, you could equip and then equip items and have like different paths for each character. But nowadays, RPGs are kind of ubiquitous.
Yeah,
and
they
not
are
to
really
mention that they try to push the word RPG into every kind of game. Like they get Stellar Base, say, "Oh, that's an there are RPG elements." Say, "No, freaking hell, there's no RPG in there." And so they try to sell the word RPG to make it say, "Okay, it's different. It crosses the different genres and to gather more people." No, sorry, that's not RPG.
It's a very marketable word, I guess.
Exactly.
You know what that's going to happen with, I think, in the next few years is Bullet Hell. Have you noticed this? It's the same thing. Now, Bullet Hell is becoming a real marketing word. So you'll play games, you're like,
have you heard
this isn't a Bullet Hell?
Have you heard?
Now you know what I feel like. Now you're going to remember what I felt like when we lost the word shooter. You're going to lose Bullet Hell, and you're going to be pissed about it.
Have you heard it? Have you heard the word
Gen X to millennial? Gen X have shooter, millennials we have bullet hell. Yeah.
No, have you guys heard the word bullet heaven?
Yeah.
Ouch! No, don't get started.
Of course, not the channel. Like the channel has nothing to do with that, but like the word,
yes,
like when
the
someone classifies.
Yes.
Jeez, it's horrible.
On the Wikipedia, if you look up shmups on Wikipedia now, bullet heaven is now on there. I'm like, come on, Wikipedia, you serious right now? So yeah. That's what I'm saying. Bullet hell is going to be the new marketing term. Like, if you guys remember the Shmup Steam sale a while back, and like the majority of the games on the front page aren't actually shmups.
No.
That's going to happen. So
you just put the tag bullet hell on something because like
the
something that shoots a lot in the game, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, because they like the aesthetic of Bullet Hell. Bullet Hell and shmups have really strong aesthetics. And so other genres look over, they're like, oh, we like the purple bullets from Mishima-sama. Look how cool they are. Everyone loves those. But the whole like dying and being hard stuff, let's not worry about that. Let's just take these bullets and put them in whatever and call it a bullet hell.
No, it like borrows a badassness to something like when they call it when they call it bullet hell, like this is a bullet hell experience, like not for the CCs, not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You know what Angel at Dusk is that I think is really funny? I think more shmups should do this. It's pure manipulation, but I think it's funny. Is its easy mode is called very hard. and then its hard mode is like extreme oblivion and stuff like this. I think shmups should start doing this. It's actually really funny. Just rename the modes. So like easy mode is now
I can't remember the game now. There was a game that you had like it was Devil Demon the shmup that went wrong in Japan, like the Paulo hates. What's the name of the thing?
The one I hate. There's so many.
Yeah, it's a Yoko game like with similar to Thunder Force that you say, I don't. Yeah,
okay. You're talking about Devil Engine.
Yeah, Devil Engine. Yeah.
Drama Engine.
the one that the easy mode is like there's a joke something like that. Really? Are you really going to play this or something like that? And the
Yeah.
hard mode, I think it's one of the best things.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's kind of a fun little idea. Because I was saying, just talking to developers, I was saying the problem with normal mode now is because we can't say things are bad or easy anymore. So a lot of things now are reclassifying normal as easy. So the problem is if you make a shmup and you make the normal mode actually normal, nowadays people won't feel like that's enough. So that one way to do it is just the just lie like art Angel at Dusk, where it's like uber difficult when it's easy. But another thing you could do is I was saying maybe shmup developers should change the term normal mode to official difficulty so that people know this is the intended difficulty
The
of the
real
game.
experience,
It's official, right? And then you can call the hard mode Uber Maniac Ultra Die or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think you got to start giving them crazy titles like that. Like,
Yeah.
because remember, Cave's so good at this with their Ultra mode in Mushimi-sama, where you go from Maniac to Ultra, and then when you hit Ultra, a warning screen appears. It's like, dude, are you
sure?
Are you sure you want to do this right now?
Are you doing what you think you're doing?
I think more shmups should do stuff like that. Like when you play the ultra hard mode in a shmup, a warning screen should come up or something, just to sort of sell the idea that this is intended to be really hard.
We're not responsible for any trauma you acquired by playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Junkie, you have the picks? Yeah.
Yeah. This is not officially a shmup, but it was actually in your list, in your video too. And it's the perfect game for me to talk about because, I mean, if I was making videos right now, I would have already reviewed it by now because it's the perfect game for me to review. Is Iron Meat that just came out.
Cool.
Specifically because this is a game that I knew about so long ago that I was like telling back when there was only a two-stage demo of it on Steam. And I played that two-stage demo and I put it in one of my old preview videos. I was like, this is going to be a good game, just by the way it felt to play. And then I waited forever, for years and years, and nothing happened with it. And eventually something did happen with it. And he released like a preview build for me that I had in a video of mine, a later video, where I got to play through most of the game. I think it's still missing like one or two of the final stages that came out in the final version and the refinement. But I got to play like most of it. And it was just as good as I expected it to be. Like it is a perfect like recreation of a Contra game. Like everything about it is just fantastic. But what I like most about it, because there's a lot of Contra clones out there and games that feel like Contra, and like Super Cyborg is a really cool game and it feels like Contra. But there's something unique about the original like NES Contra game specifically, and maybe a little bit the 16-bit versions. A lot of NES games, because they're auto-scrolling, even though this isn't auto-scrolling, there's a sort of pacing to it. Like if you play the stage a certain way, you can speedrun it. Like you can do that with Castlevania, you can do that with Contra, you can do that with Mega Man, you can do that with certain games. And it does that perfectly. It's very nitpicky about the enemy placement and how everything appears on screen. And just like the original Contra games, you can speedrun Iron Meat, and it is really, really fun to do if you get good at it and you play it a certain way. You can just bounce through a level and just boom, 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 like when you have the timing right, just like Ninja Gaiden. So it's got that perfect feel of the controls. Like it feels like you're playing Contra. Everything is right on. The timing is there. The enemy placement is there. So most people will play it and be like, oh, this is just a really cool game. The graphics are great. The sound is great. It's a good production. It's well made. But once you get a little bit better at it and you play certain stages over and over and over again, you get a feel for what the flow of the stage is. And if you can stay in that, you can really, really run it fast. And it starts to make the levels fun to play because you can just kind of get it right on with the timing. And I think it was kind of planned for that, because if you look, at least in the demo that I played, there's a counter as you're playing, like literally on the screen that's counting down. So you always know what your timing is. Like you don't need to be a speedrunner and set your clock. It's there. And it's always running as you're playing the stage. Like it was there in the early demo, and I'm hoping they kept it in the final game. And then there's like all these different skins you can use, and you can make your own character with like different heads and bodies and bottoms. And the idea is that you can like customize your own funny looking or unique character, and you could speedrun the game that way, or you could speedrun certain stages. So that's kind of what I got from Iron Meat. Is it's not just a good game and detailed and everything else that comes into making a good Contra clone, but it's got the details down enough and the pacing and the enemy placement down to a level where it feels like you could speedrun it in the same way you could the old Contra games. And I really enjoyed that. So like when I played it, so like for me, that's like it came out just as good as I was hoping it would. Caveat, I haven't been able to play the final release because that just came out. But the pre-build that I played, even though it's like over a year old, was like almost all the stages in the game, and it was pretty close. And I'm sure after that, he must have refined it even further. And back when I played the demo, the difficulty was high. Like it was, if you were going to play it like deathless, or if you're going to run through a level and you only have, let's say, 3 lives to beat the whole game, it wasn't easy to do. You really had to have it down. I'm not sure if the final version got easier, if they toned it down, or if they give you more lives. I'm not sure what the final build is like, but the build that I played was right on. It's how I liked it.
Yeah, they definitely squeezed a lot of content into the game. Like I even like it more than the Contra Galuga, Operation Galuga. Like I think it feels more Contra than the official Contra game. But anyway, just a shout out from Stepanicus. My question for the panel is, why no love for Terroring? They have been churning past few years, but I see a lot of coverage from Terroring.
No, that's a lie. Junkie has been talking about Terroring forever. He's just not talking about games anymore because of the documentary.
Well, I talk a lot about Terrain because like it pings me and reach me out directly and say, hey, I have something to show you, and we have this close relationship, and but the guy is like, I think he's very resourceful in terms of making games. He has good ideas, and he get like good results in the end. Like he implements the idea very well. I don't know. My job is to try to make him more popular because I really like the what he achieves in the end. But like, I think like we've been everyone has been chasing like different objectives, like in YouTube, and not always like what you want to review, what you have to review. There are different things. Like sometimes you guys, for example, I have a script for a video I already shared with Paulo. I'm dying to start doing this video, but I can't. Like I had other things to. I had to prepare the 2 versions of the Best of 2024 in Portuguese and English, and I couldn't just start working on it yet. But I will at some point. I will. Maybe I don't know. It's linked to the you don't find time to talk about everything or to cover about everything. But I don't think it's anything particularly bad about his work. What do you guys have to say about it?
Is that the guy who did Moon Dancer? I'm looking it up. Yeah, I think for me, it's just a situation of it's sneaking under the radar, and then when people say, "Hey, check out Turian," I'm like super late to the party. Or Moon Dancer, for example, I was like, someone showed me Moon Dancer like quite a while after it came out. I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. But a lot of these things sneak right under the radar of what I'm up to. And also sometimes with like doing videos, I always try to let my inspiration sort of lead me at times. So I'm always like, even though I have this giant list of videos I'm going to do, unless it's a Patreon voted review, which I'm like locked in to do. Other than that, I'm always kind of like 1 or 2 videos is as far as I can predict into the future, because I'll never know what interest will shift, what I'll feel like doing. So I let my muse guide me with a lot of my video selections. Unless there's something that I know I want to cover, and then I have to just wait for an opportunity to cover it. Like DOJ last year, I spent all year just like had it circled on my calendar. All right, when the M2 port comes out, I'm covering it. And all year long, I'm just look at the date on the calendar. It's like, it's coming. So I'm like that with Virtua Fighter 5 and 6 and stuff. So there's certain things that I have to just sort of wait until the opportunity to cover them. Then other things I'll want to cover them, and then they get like lost in the shuffle of what I'm up to, and then I'll look back. Angel at Dusk is so a perfect example of that. All year long, I'm like, I'm gonna review Angel at Dusk. I'll get to it, and then now it's January or almost January. I'm like, oh wow, it's been almost a year now of I'll get to Angel at Dusk. So
I have
it's just
a couple
pure
of,
chaos. It's pure
I
chaos
have-
at the
I
Electric
have-
Underground Studios.
I have a couple of scripts that I finished, and I'm just waiting for the right time to start. And they are like in my Google Drive, getting older every day because like I don't like you said, like you have other priorities. You switch context from one to another, and you end up like skipping them for no reason.
And I think
And
that's
it is
the price
also
of the-
easier to cover stuff that you anticipate is coming. That is so much easier.
Yeah.
So like if I'm just like Iron Meat, someone sort of mentioned Iron Meat, I had completely lost track of this game. And so when it comes out, I'm like in the middle of something else. I'm like, oh right, there it is. And then it's like, oh, now I missed the window. So also like if you can, this is what I say to like developers and stuff too, is like you should constantly remind people your game's coming out. Because if you tell me Metal Slug Tactics was like this, I saw the trailer for Metal Slug Tactics God knows how long ago. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Completely forgot about it. And then luckily someone reminded me, I think Boghog reminded me like, hey, Metal Slug Tactics is coming. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's
But,
why I do the drops videos. That's
Yeah.
exactly why I do the drops videos, so we can keep track of what's going on in the
Yeah.
real time.
And one thing that I think even Stefanicus he said about Terrain is that he may not do the best games out there. He does very good games, but he's doing like say consistent games. So he does from time to time. So can count there's going to be like 2 Terrain games per year, something like that. But he's not the one that's promoting his games a lot. So probably I heard about Terrain games on your drops, Philip. And say, oh, there's a new Terrain game. I will put that on my wish list.
Exactly.
But other than
And
that,
that's so important. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
important.
so exactly so that otherwise I would forget. And every time they say myself I do a review, it's either because that's a game that I really like a lot or because I got the key from a publisher. And then
Okay,
basically you
I'll-
have something that you like a lot more, or something that okay, yeah, the guy gave me the key, so yeah, let's do a good job, at least talk about it, even though the the publisher may get mad at me because I didn't talk good about the game.
Yeah, and also a great example of this is, this guy's very prolific. He's working on stuff. Do any of us know what he's working on right now?
I usually know what he's working on because I follow him on Twitter. So like when he was working on this, every game he's working on, I always know because he's always posting on it. So he's pretty good about constantly posting about what he's doing, but it's on his Twitter account. So if you don't follow him, he's not all over social
Exactly.
media posting in every possible place. He doesn't have anyone promoting him. So, unless you're following him, yeah, then you don't really know what he's doing or what he's up to.
Exactly. And I don't know what the exact answer to this is, but it is, I think, a huge problem shmups have is it's not that there's not games being made, but often they just appear and you're like, oh, like Angel at Dusk, like, oh, there's Angel at Dusk. So you don't have that anticipation building cycle for game releases. Whereas like much better example of this that did well was Shadow of the Ninja Reborn, where Einen were like, it's coming, here are the trailers. And so I could mark it on my calendar. Oh, Shadow of the Ninja's coming. I'm ready for it. I'm prepared. And so when it came out, I was able to cover it the day it came out. So that's a huge thing that I think shmups really struggle with
I
is
don't
like
think it's just
letting
a
people
shmup
know stuff's
problem.
coming.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's just a shmups problem. I guess all the indies.
Yeah.
Like,
indie
every
games.
time you have an indie game, like you have a very skeleton crew like working on everything. Like you have you're very limited in terms of human resources on who's doing what, and I don't think like there's anyone. So most of the times, like there's nobody taking care of the marketing. So you just have like you give a Twitter account to someone and hope the person to do their best, but like.
You know what I think is the missing ingredient here? I've been thinking about this a lot. Is in the past there used to be all these like little random gaming review websites that are just these little random guys, but they would cover this stuff. So like Iron Meat, for example, if you look up Iron Meat, there is literally no coverage of this game. Nothing. It just on Steam and a website. Like there's no like little reviews that covered it. There's no little entities that covered it. I think that's what we're really sort of missing is that little ecosystem of stuff that used to cover indie stuff more and sort of slowly get the word out. Now that's all gone and everyone just thinks, oh, well, if I post about it on Twitter, I'm not on Twitter. So you could post every single day on Twitter. I will never see it because I'm not on there. And also the way Twitter works is like Junkie said, if no one's following you, you could post about your game every single day. It still wouldn't exactly work. So,
I have to say Twitter works for me really well in terms of getting content and recommendations. I don't use it for like giving my opinion on things. Like I don't do like conversations on Twitter, but it's really good to get like engagement in and out from new releases, for example, like people.
But you're seeking it. I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
It works one direction. So it works if you're seeking things. So if you are like, I want to look for stuff, it's great for that.
No.
But it doesn't work the other way around where you want to promote things.
Yes.
That's where everyone's like, meh.
No. I guess from this mechanism came the idea of making the drops videos, because I don't know if there's probably an algorithm being trained there to know who should receive what, because mine at this point is amazing to get new releases. Like what I get now every time I enter on Twitter, like I avoid entering on Twitter like randomly, because I see like every time I enter there I see 2 or 3 games that I have to talk about. And it's really good to get new recommendations. Like it's amazing. Like and I guess because the algorithm knows like you talk about games, and when I post to Twitter, I put them on I post a video, I immediately post it on Twitter with everyone marked. It gets back to me with new recommendations every time. So it really definitely works really well.
See, I think your Shmup Drops video is a great example of what I'm talking about, because that's like, I think when it comes to like getting games out there, you gotta hit every platform in all these different ways. So for me, YouTube videos work. So for example, I watched your best of the year 2024, and some of those games on there, I think Iron Meat being one of them, I was like, oh, that came out this year. So there's all kinds of stuff like your drops videos are really helpful for that. But it would be great if there was some sort of extra mechanism that wouldn't be social media though. Like I said, like a website or something that would just like every week be like, here's what's coming out. Or if there's nothing coming out, just be like, nothing's coming out this week, check back next week or something. Something a little more external. Well, magazines print though, so that there's a lot of time and delay between getting the magazine to you and stuff coming out. Yeah. And so the problem is, the reason why these don't exist is because the guy's uploading every week what's coming out. He's not going to make any money. So why should he even bother? And then everyone's like, well, just post about it on social media. That's like close enough. So yeah, we have a real gap, I think, with like getting the word out about these releases.
Yeah, well, we'll get there at some point. Like there's, I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic in terms of see what we're having now in the gaming bubble as a general. Like and I'm pretty happy on how fast things are moving. Like how fast you get in contact with someone. Like Terrain is just one case. Like there's more developers from Japan that they are pretty hard to communicate. They don't because of language barriers and everything, like time zone and whatever. They get not just to me, but to everyone. So I guess at some point we'll have
and the problem talking about Japan is that it's not only about devs being hard to talk to, but because they have a different mindset. They think about, okay, I'm going to the next Comic-Con, I'm going to sell my games there, physical media, people are going to follow me online or all this stuff that Japan only. but they don't care about Western audience. And that's the striking difference with Terroring, because Terroring, he does his games for the Western audience. He does them on Steam. That doesn't sell a lot in Japan, but he knows that it sells outside Japan. And most devs in Japan, up to this day, they're still thinking about, okay, I'm going to sell this in a conference and a comic or something like that, and that's it. They don't think about, okay, I can make extra money if I put that on Steam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to ask you, in regards of the YouTube, now it's the YouTube roundup. Roundup, like how was like? I know that we know that Junkie is unfortunately away from the from YouTube now, because he's finishing the documentary. Mark switched to full-time YouTuber.
Indeed.
That's pretty bold. I'm saying
it's very bold. It's very bold. It's somewhat insane, but yes, I am a
borderline insane. But anyway.
I'm living the proper. I always think about it like this is the 2024 version of being a bohemian artist. You know, you read like On the Road, and you read about the people in those cafes in France. Being a full-time YouTuber in Idaho is like the version of that, where I'm just this bohemian dude rambling about games, having my lunch at gas stations. I mean, it's not glamorous, but it's really fulfilling shift for me. So.
And Paulo and me, in case you guys don't know, like I think most of the audience here is not from our Portuguese-speaking original audiences. So we are taking care of channels like we're taking care of channels in Portuguese and English now. So it's been kind of hectic. Every time I do a video, I have to do two. So you can imagine how it is and you have to rewrite the language, because like if you just translate something from Portuguese to English and back and forth, like it doesn't make sense, or the joke totally dies, or so it's been hectic. I don't know for how long I'll be able to do that, but it's been fun. I have to say it's been fun. It's two totally different worlds, like dealing with
but it's a fun perspective, because really when you talk, let's say, to other Brazilian people, we talk in a way that we are trying to do content, especially for people that we used to grow up with when we were younger. Now, when you go to an English audience, we are trying to do something different. Okay, I'm trying to tell how was it growing up in a different place than what you see over there. Because as I said in my last video or at New Retro Pixels, my kids can buy a Steam Deck or PS5 on minimum wage on their part-time jobs in North America. In Brazil, with minimum wage, you can even get close to buy one of those things. I say they can buy the Steam Deck and the PS5, and they still have money for lunch. In Brazil, you have to spend like 2 months the entire salary, and you can't eat anything. Just to get, let's say, one Steam Deck. And the PS5 is even much expensive. So this kind of difference in context, I think that's make it more interesting to talk to people outside, because when you live in North America, like or in the UK, like Philip does right now, it's one life experience. But when you live in a different place, you see that things are similar, but they're not the same. So that's kind of makes it interesting to do the second channel.
Yeah, when I talk to guys from South America, because I always talk about, oh yeah, I'm feeling all broke and everything, I always like to remember, okay, there's a real difference between American broke and something like other countries in the world, where American broke's still like pretty comfy. It's still a pretty comfy experience. Yeah, like you said, I still have access to all kinds of luxuries and all kinds of things, and the cost of living isn't that crazy and all that. So yeah, it is a huge difference. I always remember, like, I don't know how lucky, I guess, how rich we are, we don't even know how rich we are.
Don't move to California if you want to keep that affordable.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I heard it. California is pretty expensive.
Yeah, no kidding. No, yeah, I can't move even if I wanted to. I love Idaho though, so I'll be here.
And well, the I guess the when do you Junkie? You mentioned the documentary you're working on. How close are we to of getting it released? Like, I mean, of course, no pressure. We understand you're working on your own pace.
No pressure.
Oh yeah,
No,
no,
I know. I just want to know, like, if
no,
there's
for
any.
sure. I think no, it's not a think. It definitely should be coming out this coming year in 2025, without a doubt. The only reason I wouldn't be able to know approximately when is because I don't know how long the production will take. Like, I know that I should be finished with my editing in the first quarter or sooner, based on what I have left to do. And after that, they might say, okay, we'll change this, or adjust this, or there's because not only is there the main documentary and the specials, but we also have all of this content that we're just releasing as is. Because each interview for some of these people are like 2-3 hours long with Ikeda-san and with Manabu Namiki, and and it's all subtitled. But we can't put all that in the documentary. But there's a lot of fans that would just love to see that. So the point of the supplementary disc is just to release that and have people, as much as possible, at least what's watchable and usable, to just listen to these guys talk. Sometimes about nothing, sometimes about fascinating things that just you can't fit into the documentary.
Yeah,
but
I
I'll
definitely
get all
want
that
that
together, and but then they have to release all the materials. They have to make the Blu-rays and the jackets and the production. That takes time. So I don't know how long that part will take. I know they will absolutely be pushing to get it done in 2025. I know that Tatsujin Extreme comes out in 2025, and they would like it to come out either before or with that. At least that's what it's slated for. But I know that, at least for my part, like I said, I'll have, I'm in the home stretch, and I'll have it done as much as possible so then they can meet their timelines and do what they need to do. And that's a big part of why, I kind of buckled down and I said, this is my priority, because I don't want to hold them up either, and make sure I get my part done, in a timely manner. It's been 3 years now since, the original Kickstarter and all that stuff. So
You basically spend more time on the documentary than in your channel.
oh, for sure. And a
I
lot
don't
of
think Junk is spending any time on his channel by now.
No, by now, but
Yeah, by now.
from where he started.
But there was a lot of work in the beginning before I could even do anything. I mean, just for him to go out and do all of those interviews and all the recordings, before it was even ready for me to start editing, it took a while. So
it took me, for a good context, guys, it took me a year to edit my bootleg documentary. So imagine like real production value. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
there's a lot of interviews on his part, so that's why the expense was so high, for the Kickstarters. You have to pay camera people and, audio people, and, he had to go out and schedule dates and interview all over the place, all over Japan. So, there was a lot of work on his part. Now there's work on my part. So, I'm not a professional video editor. YouTube's all I've ever done. So I'm just doing my best with it. But, I think the people who are looking to watch this aren't so much looking, even though it'll have a proper production value, they're not looking for fireworks. They want the quality content. They want to see unique stuff, and that's what we're trying to give them, is not something that they've already seen in my every Toaplan shooter video, going through every single game like an encyclopedia, but like just what these people actually have to say and putting it all together in like an entertaining and concise way. Covering everything, but not into such detail where you're skimming over what people really want to see, which is not what they can already see somewhere else, but where things that they've never seen before, by developers they never heard talk about these things before. And that's what I want to do. So we're there. We're getting there. Like I said, I'll be done soon, and people should hopefully, barring something happening, expect it to release next year.
Yeah, I remember when I worked on my Passion Against Reason documentary, one of the hardest things about it, I assumed it would be like the technical editing process of it, but the hardest part about it was I had this giant pile of footage of talking to people, randomly filming things, just I think it's like 50 hours of raw footage for that. And I'm just sitting there staring at 50 hours of footage like, how do I make this some sort of coherent thing? So I literally had to I eventually decided, okay, I got to literally write a screenplay for my own documentary. So then I had to sort through all the footage and like write a screenplay and then like assemble something coherent out of it. So so that can be a really time-consuming process, but it's not the type of thing you would expect would be so time-consuming. You'd think, oh, 50 hours of footage, you just pick through that, kick that out in a week. But it's like you have to tie everything together, and well, that's what I thought. I was like, no problem.
I know, I'm joking.
Now imagine that footage that you had, Mark, was not in English but in Japanese.
Yeah.
And then and then someone had to subtitle it all, and then you have to kind of put it together and then use the subtitles in what you're doing because you don't really speak the language, which is, my deficiency, obviously. So, that's another level of complication to it. So once we're done, you have my narrations, but then you also have the Japanese narration, the original without the subtitles. And then you have, assuming nothing changes, we have Mark Busler on board from Classic Game Room, who's supposed to do the main narration for it. So he has to take my narration and narrate his own, and I got to put that in there. So there's a lot to it.
Oh, actually, I just recalled something that I had to talk about here in the presence of Shmup Junkie, because some people are coming to me and saying, "Hey, aren't we supposed to have a video of yours in Shmup Junkie's channel?" And I said, "Yeah, we talked about that." We decided that the format is not the best for the for what we're planning. We're going to figure out something in the future. And people said, I think you guys, I don't know, had an argument or something. I said, no, man, that's not true. Like, come on, it's just like we just didn't find a way to publish it yet. Like, we're eventually do something in the future, but it doesn't need to be that video that we talked about in the channel or something. But people are expecting it, and I sometimes don't have what to say. Like,
the bottom line is that it's my fault. Everything is, and I'm happy to admit that and say that, don't blame anybody else. It's on me. Even the idea that I had where I wanted to, post other people's things on my channel, and I fully intended to, and some people were coming to me with their videos, but the problem is that even that requires a certain amount of work on my part. It wasn't just a simple, okay, well, I'm just going to take it and throw it up there. I can't do that. And it's my fault. I literally don't have enough time to even do that. So it's one thing to have good intentions, and I think if I had the time and I followed through with that, I'd probably have, several more videos up on my channel right now from different people, because I took them and put in my own, 1 or 2 days worth of work on top of them to make them what they need to be, and then posted them. But I chose not to do that. So it's like, that's on me. It's completely on me.
When someone asked me about this, I said, just say, man, do you know why I don't do dossiers anymore? Because every time I have to do a dossier, I think it takes me like a month doing the capturing everything, editing and whatever. He's doing a full-blown 3 hours plus video. I don't know how big it's going to be. Like, man has no time. Like, it's not his day job. Like, he has other things to do. Like, we didn't figure out the way
that's not like, it's not like I'm doing that full time. I'm doing that in my free time. So
yeah, exactly.
And my plan was this is my secret plan. I was going to start just spamming Shmup Junkie with bunches of cave videos that I want to just randomly make. I was like, I can't make 6 videos about Guange on my channel, so I'll make a 7th video about Guange and send it to Junkie. But even I was like, oh, crap. I know, but I didn't have time to do it. This is my whole plan. I'm like, I'm going to spam him with Guange videos. And yeah, I couldn't get around to it. So
yeah,
it's just, I think like the video production side of things on YouTube, it is a very time consuming process. And what's funny was that when I went full time, I assumed, oh baby, I'm going to be dropping video. It's going to be like a flow of videos. And then I found, okay, make 1 video a week. And I'm like hustling to do 1 video a week.
Yeah.
And
because
I think
standards get higher as well. Because
exactly.
now you're full time, you have to do better before.
Exactly. That's exactly right, Paulo. I would like sit and like for the STOJ video, I edited that like 5 times longer than I would have a few years ago because now I have the bandwidth to do it. I'm like basically slowly morphing into Shmup Junkie where I'm like spending all this insane time editing the videos. I'm like, okay, now I get what Junkie was talking about with everything takes forever to do.
No,
Yeah,
and you
even when
went.
my channel was live and I was making videos, I was releasing something like once the production values got to a certain point, like what, once every 2 months, maybe more like 3 months.
Yeah.
It's like it was taking me months to make those videos because they were massive, or I was putting a ton of time and production value.
So
into
many
it.
cuts, so many edits.
So it's like I wanted,
Yes.
I wanted to make the final product that I wanted to make, and I wasn't going to compromise. I'm like, fine, it's okay. I don't care if I don't post anything for 2 or 3 months, but when I do, it's going to be what I wanted to do, and it's just a different format. Like with what you do, Mark, you're lucky in that a lot of it is very dialogue driven, so you can just sit and you can talk about the game and you can review it. And the footage that you're posting, there's a lot of editing involved, but it's not as much editing as like what I'm doing in some of the videos. So like
every 3 seconds, I counted.
If
every 3 seconds you have a cut.
if
I
you
counted,
hustle,
Junkie.
And not only that, you have
like,
to
you can
find the
produce a video like every
what
week
we're
or
talking
two.
about.
Like, yeah, every week or two you can release a video, right? Like if you really hustle. There's no way I could release a video every week or two, like with what I was doing. Like,
And Junkie, one thing that you did in your videos that was impressive is that you were talking about the games, and when you talked about something specific in the game, you had a footage for that. So that's also the extra hard part, because you have to play the game to that part, you have to capture it, and then you have to cut it right in place. So that takes to do the extra level things.
Every second, like every minute of footage, every 2 minutes, just a lot of work. Like it got more and more into that way, and that was by choice. It's what I wanted to do, and I enjoy doing it. And maybe that's why I'm doing a documentary now, because I kind of wanted to branch out and see what I could do with it. And who knows? Maybe I don't go back to making videos. Maybe I go to making documentaries.
That'd be cool.
Who knows? I have no idea.
There goes my dossiers.
Unfortunately, I don't speak Japanese, so it's like I can come in and help, but we need someone like Joe, or that's there on the ground, that knows these people and can do that kind of work and do everything else. I mean, I'd learn Japanese. Certainly, I'd go live there if I could. But
also, we have to consider one thing: like, it's not because it's a job that you don't get a burnout. Like it's very time consuming. Like you do it in your free time, so you end up like some people say, but you're doing this in the free time. You're doing it in the free time, but like you have a schedule. Like,
it's supposed to be your free time.
Yeah,
not your work time.
It's just one of those things where, after a certain time every day, I dedicate a couple of hours. It's like, this is what I'm going to work on today for 2 hours, tomorrow for 2 hours. I've gotten a lot done during the holidays right now because, I've had a lot of time off. So I just kind of been pushing it and gotten a lot finished. So.
Hey, Mark, this one is for you.
This is Sora. Sora is trolling. Okay. Sora is my most dedicated viewer. Every time I do a stream, Sora is there. Sora is trolling me.
Okay, all right. Deal with it.
He's also a really good sub. He likes watching your videos. He liked watching my videos, and he's always engaged. And we could only hope for that to have. We could only hope that even 10 or 15% of our subscribers were that dedicated, to our channel.
Yeah, Sora. I always like to tell this story. There was days where I was practicing Ketsui, like Omote save states, and so it was the most absurd stream of all time, where it's just, and I didn't have even a mic either. I think it was just like every 5 seconds me resetting a save state on like Aura or on Omote, and it's just me and Sora for like hours, just playing Ketsui.
I have to say one thing. Sometimes I'm starting my work and I get to the login and start reading my emails, and I receive a notification like Mark is playing something live. I see that, look at that guy.
Oh yeah,
9 in the morning.
I had to cut that. I had to cut down on that. Yeah, because like it's actually more fun to sit and grind Ketsui than it is to edit a video. Like if I could just spend all night playing Ketsui, I would, but then the video doesn't get edited. So I have to like not let myself play Ketsui. And then I noticed if I stream, then I have this excuse like, well, I'm streaming, so this is like this totally counts, when it doesn't. So yeah, unfortunately I don't have the same bandwidth to like stream Ketsui for 6 hours on end and stuff like that anymore.
I used to get asked that all the time, like, why don't you also do Twitch, or why don't you stream, or that kind of stuff. And it's like, because people wanted to see me do it. I'm like, I just can't. Like, I have to. I made the choice that I'm going to do certain kinds of videos in production. And if I start breaking myself off in different directions, I just won't have time for anything. Like, it's just, so I figure, okay, well, that's not my game, you know, that's not why I'm here. So, like, as fun as it would be, like, to just sit and play video games and have people watch, like, it takes you away from what you really need to get done if that's what you're doing. So I just,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take like literally a month or a few weeks off before Shmup Slam, and it'll just be me playing whatever game I'm playing. It's like, all right, it's vacation mode. I'm just gonna be playing this shmup for a month or whatever,
Oh, talking about
or a
Shmup
few
Slam.
weeks.
Talking about Shmup Slam, this year we did the second marathon in my channel. It was really good. We did like 12 hours of
Nice.
streamers. Yeah, it was pretty good. Of course, just in Portuguese, like it was focused on the Brazilian audience. I want
Yeah.
I want in 2025 try to do 2 events, one for the Brazilian audience and one for the international audience here in this channel. Let's see how it goes.
Nice. Well, remind me for the international one.
Oh yeah, you'll be
I
my
will
co-host.
play. No,
Play.
no,
Nah, come on,
no
come
way.
on. No
No
way.
way. I will play though. I will appear and play.
You can cover my lunch.
Well, yes, I'll jump on the microphone. I'll jump on the microphone and talk into it. But organizing, scheduling.
No. I'll be
No.
organizing. You can jump on the microphone whenever you're available.
Okay.
Of course, all you guys are invited. If you want to
Okay, I'll do that.
participate, then jump in the microphone and participate. Adine was there. He did a nice run. We always have a nice talk in Adine's segment, and I hope to see you guys this year also.
Yeah, I'll definitely appear and talk and play. But Shmup Slam is as much organizing as I'm capable of every year. That's like the max.
I totally
Like my
understand.
organizing stats, they get maxed out every year for Shmup Slam.
I totally understand, and I have Hauser's help. Last year, I had
that'd be
Hauser's help. Hauser did a lot of work in background, and to make it possible. Adne's helping too. We have more people helping.
And he was there all time along with you.
Yeah, Paulo was online all the time and talking in background too, because like, man, it's crazy. 12 hours sitting. It's sitting and talking about
Shmup
bullets
Slam.
flying. It's crazy. I totally understand.
That's a proper If you do 12 hours straight, that's a proper Shmup Slam experience.
But either way, all you guys are invited if you want to participate somehow, depending on, of course, your availability. But feel yourself invited.
Yeah, I think what's fun is I love to participate. I mean, I love doing Shmup Slam, but the way Shmup Slam works is I never feel like I actually get to experience it like everyone else because I'm running it, and so I'm never in the moment. You know, I'm always like, even during like really cool runs, I'm always like, is the stream working? Are we losing frames? You know, I'm always, I can never just like sit back and enjoy. I'm like staring, like all Shmup Slam. I always have my phone going with the stream on the phone to make sure the stream's still working.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking to people, I'm always like half looking at the stream, being like, is it still working and stuff? So
I have a window with Hauser's shot, and he's always, this thing is off, move it.
Yeah, exactly.
You forgot this. You forgot.
Yep.
Your mic is too quiet. Your mic is too loud.
Yep, exactly. So I always like to participate in other people's events where I can just show up and not worry about organizing and doing things like that.
Well, you can count on me if it helps. Like I have some experience on it.
Well, Shmup Slam this year at Akihabara Arcade, I think it'll be a really cool experience because they have a whole setup there. They've got a lot of experience. I'm gonna make Dirty Screech. He's like the VP of Shmup Slam at this point. He's helped me so much with the event. Screech will be there helping me. He's helped me every year, but I'll delegate to him more, make him do things more. So
you're doing it at Akihabara? Is that what you said?
Yes, but in Colorado, not in Japan.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I'm not familiar with the one in the US.
Yes, there's a American, like, I don't know if it's like a copyright infringement situation, but we'll go with it. You know, it's still awesome. You can't copyright a name of arcade, I don't think. So we're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, guys, I think that's it for this year. We did a pretty chill chat. Do you want to do any other final words, final considerations for this year, or could we wrap up?
I don't know.
Let's name our top 3. How about that? Top 3 of the year.
Yeah.
So I'll go my top 3. Number 1, Blue Revolver Double Action. Number 2, Angel at Dusk. Number 3, Devil Blade Reboot.
Okay.
I hope I didn't miss anything real obvious there. But yeah, those 3.
Okay, you want to be the next one?
Okay, I already talked about this. I will just repeat myself here.
Okay.
So it's Devil Blade, Metaphor, Refantasio, and Crime City. So those are the 3 I definitely recommend people out there to play them.
Oh, if we're
Wow.
doing the non-shmup, definitely Shadow the Ninja Reborn in my selection as well.
That's
love
I
it.
can't recommend this one because I'm still to play it. So,
Yes.
It's good.
but I
good.
probably would
excellent.
recommend it as well because I love
Yeah.
the videos for the game.
Yes.
to
And
know.
have you ever played the Ninja Warriors Return?
Yeah.
Ever played that one? Same
One of
developer.
my favorite beat 'em ups ever.
Yeah. That one's really good
It's
too.
awesome. People are asking about Signy. Should we ignore? I think we could.
Oh, come on, let's not
Oh.
get started. Let's not get there, please.
Stickney is my non-pick of the year. What which got biggest disappointment? Yeah, there you go.
Let's say
Seems
big
like that's what
disappointment,
everybody's been
Signy.
thinking.
Sorry,
If we're
Gary,
talking about 2 disappointments, it's Signy and Macross shooting inside. That's
Oh yeah, the Macross one too. Yeah.
I
oh,
think
that's
that
bad.
the only thing that everyone agrees in my video is the disappointment section.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was expecting much of Macross. I think people wanted Macross to be good simply because people like Macross. But I
love
I
Macross.
took one look at a preview and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not expecting
The
anything.
franchise is cursed. It's cursed.
I know.
The whole thing is
It's
You know
just
what's
one
crazy?
game that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's crazy. Like it has some cool arcade versions. Like there's that arcade Macross game that's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Super Nintendo game is
Super
obviously
Nintendo is
Super
also-
Famicom. Sorry, Super Famicom version is really good.
I kind of do like Robotech Battlecry. I will
they're
say.
good. They're not
Battlecry's
awesome.
pretty
They're
cool.
good. No, they're
Yeah.
good. They're good. They're playable. Definitely, you can have some fun playing. They're not awesome. Like they're not like remarkable, but they're.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
this new one looks real rough.
it's a mess. It's a bloody mess. Don't waste your time and money. But like Signy, I was having big hopes about Signy. Honestly, like I was.
Well, I was hoping it wouldn't come out. That was my hope. I was like, please don't release because I don't want to talk about this stupid game. So that when it came out, I was like, no.
I avoided because I didn't want to hurt the developers. Honestly, like I didn't want to
Yeah.
say bad things.
Yeah, that's
about
the
it.
thing too. Is like I didn't have like it was like a grim duty to review that game. I didn't want to, but I was like, I have to. It was like you know what I mean? It's like sending someone off into the gallows. It's like I didn't want to do it, but I had to. So
It's a dirty work, but someone has to do it.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, the funniest part about Signy though was before I even reviewed it, I was seeing comments being like, Mark, he's gonna, like people were already mad at me. I was like, you guys know what I'm gonna do, but it hasn't technically. This is like Minority Report. It isn't technically happened yet, but
I was in holidays
is
in
coming.
Brazil. I was in holidays in Brazil the day Signy was released, and people start messaging me, "Are you going to review it? Are you going to review it?" I say, "Dude, I'm in holidays. I'm in vacations in Brazil. I'm not going to edit videos now, even like
right."
Especially about this game. No, definitely not.
And you know what?
Yeah.
The funny thing, I know some YouTubers in Brazil that were like very excited because seeing it was a return of Konami to the great form of shmups. It was a great thing. I was like, come on, man, we didn't play the same game. Sorry.
I saw someone from the MSX community saying that, and of course we cannot take seriously what those people talk about. But anyway, they were really excited about Signy. Like Konami is back.
And the funny thing, they try to push, okay, that's a game that's made for to be more accessible. I say, no, the controls are freaking complicated. That's not.
You know what's funny is like ironically, like a really good counterpoint to Signy is Angel at Dusk, because it basically does all the things Signy wants to do, but it does them right. So it's like, it'd be actually really interesting if the Signy guys played Angel at Dusk. They might not like it because it's, like more weird looking visually and stuff. But in terms of the game design, a lot of the things Signy wanted to do, like having a kind of a progression system type of thing, a wider aspect ratio, a lot of things it was kind of trying to do, Angel at Dusk just executes so much better, and I think it's a great counterpoint to it.
I think you're being too optimistic, considering that they are trying to do something there. Like I think they just it feels to me they squeeze a lot of ideas into something and say, okay, that's what we achieved. Let's release it, and there's no time to refine it. Let's push it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It said they were working like 2-3 years on the game, so it's not like they didn't have the time to refine it. So that's what I feel even worse about it.
That's the best comment. Spider's STGB about Sign. It's amazing. Please watch it right now. It's amazing. It's pure comedy.
Yeah,
Spider's making some really good videos in general. Very unique. Like his content is really like fun to watch.
Spiders, where are you?
Speaking of, remember someone mentioned Moon Dancer. You guys should watch Spider's video on Moon Dancer. That's how I actually came across it, and I was like, oh, this is a really good video. So watch Spider STG's video on Moon Dancer. It's really good.
Maybe next time you should have Spider on the show.
Sure, definitely.
He actually has an active YouTube channel, unlike me, the has-been, who doesn't make.
No, we could have Spider, but we can have Spider, but I like the tradition of bowling Junkie onto this call every year. So we're just gonna have to keep doing that every year.
Poor Junkie.
I like that tradition.
Oh, I have a question for the chat. Since we have some audience here, what do you guys want to see on 2025? And the same question for you guys: what are the most like the
that's a great
shmups you're looking forward in 2025? And not just that, since we're all YouTubers here, even if Junkie's kind of
in retirement, sort of.
No, he's not retired. He's taking a sabbatical.
You could say has been. Okay, you could say has been.
Yeah. What do you guys expect from us, shmup YouTubers? Like we're quite a small bunch, but anyway, of course, there's more that they're not present here. I wish we could have more communication and bring more people to the.
I wait for Alesta Branch, just that.
Again, you said that last year.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll probably say that next year as well.
Yes, every year we'll say it. Manlito says Rain Chaser. That's
Rain Chaser.
I'm really looking forward to that too.
Me too.
Yeah. That one I'm gonna have marked on my calendar when that one comes out.
It's a very cute and looks like very well polished. I played the demo. The demo is amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who are go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll say I don't cover demos because what happens is sometimes you cover a demo and I get all hyped for it and then the game never comes out. Then I'm like,
it is what it is.
So I need the full game. We need the whole enchilada here.
I agree.
That's what happened with Iron Meat. I played the demo so long ago. It was one of those games that would literally never come out. Nothing would ever come of it. It would just sat dormant for years and years and years.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, it became a thing. So it happens.
I don't know what's this about. If it's more trolling.
Oh, very cool, Sora. So yeah, this is a Bog's game, Armed Decobot. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, I tried to bring Boghawk this time, but he couldn't make it. Let's see. Who else? Alesti Branch. What else?
I would say Eartheon. A lot of people are looking forward to Eartheon. And if you're into the older 16-bit games, at least graphically it looks amazing. We know that. The early gameplay that I've seen so far definitely looks like it's pretty intense. Like it doesn't look cheap. Like it looks like they're definitely, whoever's doing the programming at least knows what they're doing. We don't know until we play, but obviously the music is going to have to be awesome, right? I mean, if Yuzo Koshiro is doing the music, it's probably going to be pretty good. So we know the graphics will be great. We know the music will be great. And if they can come through on the gameplay front, it could end up being a fantastic game. So,
well, someone mentioned VZ Gun here.
Okay.
Someone mentioned VZ Gun. This game.
I'm looking forward to. I always have to look up the title for it because the title always gets jumbled in my head. But it's called Blackfinger Jet.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's the Metal Slug's successor potentially, hopefully. So that I keep looking on it on Steam. I'm like, when are we getting a release day? But that one is huge. I'm really excited for that one. Hopefully, it'll be good.
Astro the Striker is also one looking good on Steam that has a demo, but still almost 1 year later, nothing yet. Looks better than Twisted, but I need the full game.
This one, this gun. It's a macros-like game. Pretty cool. Looking cool, at least for now.
As long as it's not called macros to follow the same curse, it's fine.
There is another game I saw from a Spanish developer. It's called Six on Fire. That looks very Terra Cresta-ish. Something between Gradius and Zibius and Terra Cresta, but like with a modern approach, like more like bullet hell dynamics or something like that. It's really looking really cool.
What's it called again?
Six on
I'm gonna look it
Fire.
up. 6 on Fire.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong. Like it's 2 a.m. here. Maybe losing packets.
That's the proper time. That's the proper YouTuber time.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I should be used to that.
I say a full-time YouTuber.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's YouTuber hours right there. 2 a.m.
The only-
Your day's just starting.
Yeah, my only complaint about Earthian is there's nobody next to user Koshiro to borrow him an OSSC, because like every time he do the footage, it like looks like he grabbed like an old VCR camera, a VHS camera, and yeah.
Shoot the footage.
No, too bad. He doesn't have a friend to borrow him an OSSC. I wish he could plug the Mega Drive on RGB and do a proper footage of the game. In terms of Mega Drive, there's plenty like amazing releases, like not to mention the real about Fate of Fury. We have the that game
ZPF.
ZPF.
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. It's been coming for a while, but they're still working on it.
Yeah, we have ZPF, and we have another game from a French developer. I forgot the name now. I played both games.
You know, some of these, I don't know about ZPF. Okay, it looks like it's on Steam. Some of these games, people will show to me, these like Mega Drive games, but you can't like get them other than ordering it from, like ordering the cartridge itself, which I always think is like a bummer.
No, you can.
No, not this one. I'm saying there's other ones. I can't remember the name of it, but someone was showing me the other day this like running gun type of thing for the Mega Drive that looked really cool, but you had to like, no, it's like this random game, but you had to order the cartridge, and it's not on Steam or anything. So I was like,
Oh, by the way, I just received Estiki, the NES game that's being made by the X Compiles. Want to play it? Do a review, proper review or something. Well, anyway, guys, my opinions, my top three would be definitely Death Blade. I also had a lot of fun playing Gunna Blade. And
Gunna Blade was fun. Yeah, that's a good one.
And it's a shame we don't have a third game with Blade on the name, but Shadow of the Ninja, why not?
Yeah.
Close enough.
Great pick.
No, Gunna Blade, I had a blast with Gunna Blade and Zealand Force. More Gunna Blade than Zealand Force, but definitely must play.
I was late to the party, but when I played this year, that was really good as well as Grace Counter GM.
Grace Counter, yeah. But Grace Counter is older, isn't it?
It's older, but let's say it doesn't mean I can't play it this year.
Well, yeah. And well, Junkie, do you have to do your top three? You didn't have a chance to play
this year, unfortunately. Yeah. Besides, obviously the games we already talked about, like nothing new. My top three are all Toaplan games because that's all I'm doing until it's done. Unfortunately, but I'm having a good time with it. So I said hopefully when it's done, I'll have a little more free time and then I'll catch up because I've wanted to play. I've seen Double Blade Reboot and I've seen Gunna Blade and they all look really fun and I wanted to play them. They're all sitting there on Steam waiting for me for when I can take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shmup Junkie's favorite game this year is Sony Vegas Pro or whatever his video editing software is.
It's DaVinci Resolve.
DaVinci Resolve.
DaVinci Resolve, his favorite game of the year.
Power to the people. Free.
Do you have like, so when I do video editing now, I've got like hotkeys all set up. I'm like, I got it all. I actually am getting pretty slick with the video editing as far as like the APM and hotkeys. And do you do all that stuff, Junkie?
To a point. I mean, I don't go crazy with it. I have like a mouse with a few different buttons that make it easier to scroll around and and copy. I mean, I've gotten fast at it, so I do it to a point. But I think when my editing is so slow because it's like the production is different. Like every like few seconds, I'm doing a few seconds at a time. So like it's not so much about speed until the end where I'm just going back and moving stuff around. It's more tedious than that. So not so much. Not so much. Hopefully you never have to deal with that level of tedium in your editing. You shouldn't if you're dealing with YouTube. But
Yeah,
once you
they
get
Who
have-
into
knows?
like
Who
interviews,
knows
and
what the future?
that-
Who knows what the future holds? Who knows?
Yeah. maybe
I've
had some real-
you may be the next editor on the next documentary.
I've
Yeah.
had some real, I've had some real tedious edits over the years. Oh, I do actually have one for you that I think may rival your documentary, but at a smaller scale, which was I interviewed the Fight and Rage developer, and I love Fight and Rage, and he doesn't speak English. He
Oh.
speaks Spanish, but he speaks like a little bit of English. And so what we did was I essentially helped him piece together an English translation of our conversation as we're talking. But in the edit, I had to go in and like word by word assemble together the sentences. So if you go and watch my interview with the developer of Fight and Rage, that is like a translation via editing where I like assembled together the interview.
It should be fun like the guy. I am the dev of.
Yes, it
like
was
the
literally
guy,
was
like
like
all different poses.
yes, it really was like almost at times word by word putting together. It was crazy. It was
Looked
crazy.
more like a cinema college project than an interview.
Yeah. Well, it was an interview, but like I wanted to get the English side because he'd answer in Spanish and then we'd kind of work because he can speak English, but not fluently. So we'd like work through okay, this is what it would be sort of thing. So we got there. We did get there, but the editing on that was pretty intense.
I can imagine. Well, guys, I think that's what we have for this year. Thank you very much for your audience, and thank you very much, you guys, for making time to be here. And again, look, someone found the game. Thank you very much for being again here. We expect to see you again next year, maybe with more special guests like Spiders, Bog Hog, if he managed, or
Fingers crossed.
and thank you very much. Well, that's it. See you guys.
See ya.
Peace out.
See you.
Peace out and bye.